There's so many different ways to grow your wealth. And one of my favorite aspects is investing in businesses. Ownership, to me, is the number one game-changing opportunity that people are overlooking right now. I think no one is talking about true ownership, truly my own money manager. I am my boss. I am my entire up level, and that means I can invest in me.
That is scary to a lot of people. Like the idea of being their own boss is like, well, I don't trust myself with my money right now, so why would I want to be the only person who's in control of it? You will build that trust with yourself. Like that's part of money management, is learning to trust yourself even when you mess up.
Everything is an opportunity if you let it be. I think taking opportunities with money somehow feels super personal, but I'm gonna say it's business.
You were made to do more in life than just pay bills and get by. The key to even more success? Get your assets together. With generational growth, we're not just talking about wealth. This is about building your version of an incredible life in every area that truly matters: mind, body, business, and self-care. What if I told you there's a life-changing opportunity to help yourself, even now and especially now? I'm Hart, an expert on being both well and wealthy. I've spent decades building what's basically my own investment fund, emphasis on fun, acquiring and growing unique brands with capital, partnerships, and strategic support. I'm here to empower you to go further faster with an anti-hustle, no burnout path to getting richer and more financially fit for investing, acquisition, and growing everything you own. Let's grow.
There's so many different ways to grow your wealth. And one of my favorite aspects is investing in businesses. It's an unlock because you don't have to have this pedigree that we've been talking about. You don't need the trust fund, and you don't need a lot of money because there are very small amount transactions that you can do. And that's actually how I started, all the way through bigger transactions. And so I think what I really want to talk through is some of those ways of getting started, no matter where you're at. And I think you queued us up so nicely when you talked about like, how much do I save from every paycheck, right? Like how much can I put aside? I love the idea of what can I do with that goes beyond the basics. So like stocks and bonds are what everybody thinks about when they think about investing. But that gets almost no one wealthy.
Yeah.
You have to already be wealthy to have enough in those stocks to have your 0.00001 turn into something. And these days, I believe the market is so manipulated that it's even harder to really achieve anything besides, if you're lucky, the measly return that they always talk about, 7 to 10% over a number of years. So there is a concept called the accredited investor. Interestingly, only 3% of accredited investors actually do angel investing. And I imagine that number is even smaller when you think about business acquisition or entrepreneurship through acquisition. And I think it's the unlock for a lot of people. The definition of an accredited investor is essentially a certain net worth amount. Usually I think it's $1 million. And then if you don't meet that criteria, you have to make at least $200,000 in a year annually. And then if not that, then if you're married, you can make $300,000 together. That doesn't sound attainable.
No.
That's how you can grow wealth when you have wealth.
For sure.
So most of the wealth in the world right now is made in the private markets. It's not made in the public markets. And yet everyone is talking about picking stocks and like hoping that becomes the growth vehicle for them.
Yeah, that's how they've been told they could grow their wealth, but really they're growing other people's wealth.
By far.
Yeah.
And so when I think about just starting off, getting to a really great emergency fund, like an exceptional emergency fund, allows you to start doing other alternate forms of investing. And so I think for me, and I'm curious your thoughts on this because you built up an emergency fund, the larger you're willing to go, the better. I mean, we're in a really crazy landscape.
Oh, yeah.
Where you don't want just 3 months of expenses.
Oh.
I like 3 years. That's a bit much. But I like 3 years for a number of reasons because it puts cash flow on the sidelines to kind of strike opportunity when it comes to.
Yeah. I think right now my goal is 1 year.
1 year
I'm at
awesome.
about 5 months.
Awesome. I think 1 year is the most attainable.
Yeah.
And really the most actionable, where you can not only get there, but once you've got a year worth of expenses, you can do anything. So one of my favorite things to start thinking about is how do I explain private investing for someone who's just got a year of savings, right? Or someone who's got 6 months, 5 months of savings. And I would say it's buying digital assets. Most people don't realize you can buy a blog. You can buy a blog that already has.
Okay, interesting because I thought you were going to say NFTs, and I was like, "Hey, girl."
No, hard no. And anyone telling you that is selling you something. Like if you start with crypto or Bitcoin, this conversation's over.
Said, I learned something new about you today. Okay.
Yeah, digital assets were really easy, and it was not my first in. And I'm happy to talk more about that. I had a privileged in because I had a lot of cash to put down into my first businesses. But like, you can genuinely buy a already done for you blog, not monetized, for a couple $100s.
Wow.
Yeah,
it's like buying a website.
It's like buying a website. That's right. It's like buying a domain. Usually that one's already built out. So it's got maybe a template that's already created, maybe even like 10 to 20 posts already on there. And if you're creative, if you're able to create a market for that, or you already come with a market, right? A lot of people have followings on social media that have yet to really monetize.
True.
That could be a really great starting off point. So that's one of my favorites. I also really like alternative investments. So tangible goods, gold, silver, those things are not going out of style. And, depending on the day, you could probably say gold is less attainable now, but silver trades for like $11, $15. And then on a really good year, maybe like 30 or 40. It's wildly speculative. But it gives you an asset you can control because it's in your hands.
Sure.
It's in your drawer. It's in a safe. And those are things that you can just start using as a wealth building strategy because to me in the beginning, control is the name of the game.
Yeah.
And that's why I started buying businesses.
I think that's what a lot of people miss is they're like, oh, well, I'm looking to just get rich like next month. So if you're telling me that I have to like buy all of these things that are going to give me all of these trade-offs in a couple of years, I'm not interested in that.
Yeah.
But I think what for me the shift was in any sort of wealth growth journey, there's going to be some sort of risk. There's always some sort of risk. But in order to be comfortable with that risk, you have to build something for yourself that you can fall back on. And that is the thing that takes time. And then the wealth itself also takes time.
For sure.
But you have to have something that makes you comfortable with engaging in risk before you can take the next step and then take that next block of time to grow whatever it is you're trying to grow even more.
It's funny, you're saying this, and I'm remembering a really dark time for a lot of people where there was a phrase that came out that was called the K-shaped economy. Do you remember this?
No.
One, I loved it because K.
For sure.
But also, it made so much sense, which was basically, if you think of the shape of a K, the economy started to, and I believe it's still to this day, it started to split where the haves get more and the have-nots get less. And it becomes harder and harder as a have-not, as an example, to get to even like, the middle class has been hollowing out for, a couple decades now.
Sure.
And then yet, when you have that security and safety, like you're saying, it is so much easier to make bets and to invest and double down and diversify.
Yeah.
You can't diversify with nothing.
No. And I think where a lot of people lose it as well is like when we have that increasingly growing wealth split, that wealth gap, it's not about like, oh, these things are now completely unattainable for me because I'm not in this specific tax bracket. It is like, it is going to be so much harder for you to get to that specific tax bracket. And that sucks, but it doesn't mean you cannot do it. You just have to shift how you do it.
Yeah, and you have to shift your willingness to do the difficult thing.
Exactly.
There's a whole thing right now with your culture where they say like, okay, Gen Z is basically foregoing house buying as if it's a choice.
For sure.
And the YOLO culture of like, but I can buy this, insert consumer good.
And I think that's a lot because like a lot of us don't believe we can buy a house because we don't know what the steps are to acquire that sort of asset. So we don't know where to start. So we're like, well, I know I can get this thing. I know I can, rent forever, or maybe I know like possibly that I can acquire enough wealth that I can rent an apartment that is bigger or a condo, or I know how to, create content. There are things that like have been fed to us that we know that we can do. But there are other things that like, because they're not talked about, because it's not like a class you can take in school of like how to own a home.
Sure.
If you don't know where you're starting from and all the people that have that thing are just so much further ahead than you ever think you can be. It just seems impossible. So I think it's more bred from a like, well, I know I can't have that. So what can I have? Which is almost the point. Like, I think if you just shifted that mindset over to like, well, I do want that thing. How can I have it? It's the same beats.
That's really
but you're just like in a different lane.
Yeah. And so let's double click on that, because I think ownership to me is the number one game-changing opportunity that people are overlooking right now. I think it's a much easier play for us to talk about like digital currency or materialistic things as that version of wealth that everybody can have that's attainable. I think no one is talking about true ownership. Ownership of assets that may be small, ownership of assets that may be big, like a home, and everything in between. And I would say the biggest unlock is having skills to be able to manage those assets. And I think that's the disconnect that I see today. It's like everybody's talking about the flex of ownership in different ways, or the flex of materialistic things. No one's talking about the hard work and the knowledge that it takes to really grow an asset, right? So if you buy a house, there's a way to maintain that house to have equity eventually when you have to sell. If you angel invest, there's a way for you to do more than just write a check, but to be able to say, I want to add value to this company. All of that is around skill, not just capital.
Yeah.
And so if you're starting out, I think the first thing that I wish people would think about more is like, how do I grow my skills at the same time as I grow my bank account?
Yes.
But that to me was the way I got here.
Yeah.
That is just so unpopular these days. The thought process now is like, okay, how can I do the least and make the most? Like the passive income lie.
Which I do think when you build the skills, eventually you do get to do a lot less and make the wealth. You just have to do a lot more upfront in order to do a lot less later on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think it's putting the cart before the horse, where it's like we need to, get the
because
assets
that's what we're shown.
to do that.
We're just shown the people who have already acquired all of that wealth, and so they're able to do nothing, just kind of sit on the wealth, and then the wealth just keeps going up because they're just sitting on it and they put it in all the right places.
Right.
But like, how did they put it in all the right places?
Right.
How did they get it there? If they like already had it to begin with, then like, what did they learn how to do with it that you're not currently doing with your wealth that could help you to get to that place where you can just do nothing and make your money grow for you? Because that is an attainable thing to have. You just can't start there.
Yeah, I can actually remember when my bank account was just under $1,000. I remember when I got to the $1,000 mark. I was super young. I started bartending. This is before I even graduated high school. And I was able to be like a bar back to a bartender to learn because I was already serving and hostessing. And I was like probably a couple $100s in the bank account. I've had the same bank account since I created one when I was 16 years old.
I think I've had the same one since I was 7.
It's wild to think about what I'm doing for those financial institutions, being such a consistent consumer. But I can remember, I think the breakaway point, I really thought about this recently, was once I crossed $1,000. It's like, it seems so simple, but once there was like 1, 2, 3, 4 figures in the bank, it was like, Shody, what you think? I could do anything.
And can I tell you something? For me, it was the same thing, but it wasn't about like seeing that number in my bank account. It was about getting that number in consistently. So like once I started serving tables, I was making around like 1,000, maybe more when I started out every couple of weeks. And seeing that money come in every single time I got a paycheck, I was like, okay, I can do something with this.
Yeah.
I know that this is more than what I need. What do I do with the excess?
Yeah, that is such a great thought process because I think most people make it rain as soon as there's more coming. Because
you're so relieved that you have all this excess. That like I get that impulse. And I think for a while that was also me, especially like during the pandemic, those COVID checks, I was not saving a single cent of that. I think I should have. But at the time, I was just so relieved to not be living in scarcity anymore. That like, I think sometimes when you get that excess, spending it on yourself can be sort of healing. And then after you find some sort of like equilibrium there of like, okay, I bought all the things that I wish I could have had before, then it's like, how do I make sure I can continue to do this in the future?
Yeah. Oh, this is good because I think about that concept of paying yourself first as part of that. It's like money coming in inconsistently is one thing. Consistency is my love language. And so money coming in consistently is a whole other kind of unlock.
Yeah.
Because now you can plan. Now you can strategize.
And now you can be consistent for yourself.
Yeah. And I always think the way I can show up for myself if I'm strategic, intentional, and proactive is so different than if I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
That to me is a flex that no one talks about. It's like consistency. It is a great life when you can understand the ins and the outs enough, because it's always unpredictable, to say, well, now I know with certainty my next goal. And I guess the thing I'm thinking about right now, which seems so silly, I remember I read a book called The Dream Manager, and I thought it was going to be about like managing people.
For sure.
I was a trainer for a really big company at the time, a sales trainer. And it was actually about managing your own dreams, your own thoughts, your own interests.
I feel like I could maybe relate to this.
Yeah. I wrote down everything I wanted.
For sure.
And started with financial. I remember the first time I went back and looked at it, and the very first thing was I want to have $100,000 saved.
Period.
And I had cleared that before the age of 25.
Nice.
And I kind of stopped counting after that, to be honest. I was really trying to think about the numbers.
Yeah.
Bank of America could send me my past statements. That would be helpful. But there was something to writing things down that just sounds so ethereal and so mindset in like a
also
woo
very
way.
in.
Like
vision
now,
boards. I mean, now, yeah, we're very in.
But 20-something years ago, I literally took a blank page in a book that I was given for that purpose and wrote it down, and wrote down aspects of my personal life, wrote down aspects of my career. And I just remember unlocking those and going back accidentally and going, oh my God, I'm onto something.
Yeah.
What now?
And I think I have done something similar over the years, because I think my goal that I have recently reached, so I got to set a new one at some point, is that when I started out just sort of like as an adult in the world, trying to attain some sort of stability, I had just graduated from a 2-year conservatory in theater, and I had no work experience. So I knew I wanted to act. I knew I wanted to continue this craft that I had been building on. But I looked around me and I saw the people who were able to do that. And I saw what they had access to that I didn't have access to. And so I knew that I needed to start somewhere else that wasn't like on a stage right away.
Yeah.
And that was hard. That was really hard to be like, I actually can't do this thing right now because I'm not willing to run myself into the ground in order to maybe attain my dream.
You say hard, I hear healthy. But
I mean, yes. But as a 19-year-old, it was hard. I look back and I was like, that was a good choice.
Yeah.
But in the moment, it didn't feel good.
Sure.
And so I think I didn't write things down, but I did take notes of like, oh, like you're able to take a few weeks off for like this play that you're in. Like, you know, how do you pay your rent during those weeks? And they'd be like, oh, I have someone else who pays it for me. Or like, oh, I have some savings that I put away. Or, oh, I have this job on the side that like has these hours that work with this play. And then I started to think about, okay, which of those things are the most attainable for me and how do I get there? And now I think, almost 10 years later, I am back in a place where I do have the stability that I need in order to go back into that craft. And so I have this year. But that took years of figuring out like, how do I get a job? How do I get a stable job? What skills do I have? How do I acquire more skills to get the jobs do I want? What kind of like hours do I need in order to be able to do this creative thing on the side? What field does that look like? What field is that in? How do I get into that field? Once I'm in there, how much do I have to be earning in order to save, in order to grow stability? How long will it take for me to grow that savings account that I need to be at that like specific number, or like however many dollars I'm putting away out of every like paycheck? Like how much longer until I get to that point? And like just thinking about like, okay, I want to do it in 3 years. Okay, I want to do this next step in 2 years. Okay, I want to do this next step next year. All of a sudden, then I was like, okay, I'm there.
Yeah, I love you just eloquently put that thought process in just like, you know, rapid fire order. And I love hearing that mindset. I think most people don't have the action and implementation ability after that. And I think that to me is the unlock. Is like, I had this thought, I wrote it down, I got a goal, I went to the next one. It's like the progression of where you were and never kind of thinking about what wasn't. I think a lot of people think about what should be.
Yes.
And think it can be really easy to go down that rabbit hole.
Which I have thought plenty about what should have been and what didn't happen and what should have happened. But at the end of the day, like, if I am unhappy with something in my life that I can change, I'm going to try to change it.
Yeah.
Now, if I can't change it, then I have to learn how to live with it and learn how to adapt and grow alongside of it. But most of the things I found I can change.
Yeah, I would say everything is an opportunity if you let it be. And I think taking opportunities with money somehow feels super personal, but I'm going to say I don't think it's personal.
No.
It's business. And whether you have a business or you want to have a business one day or you just are a career gal or guy, my thought process is that if you treat it like a business, it becomes this whole other strategy, right? You almost never hear a successful business person say, like, I have no intentions, no plan, no strategy. But you hear people say that all the time about their life, right? Goes back to meaning of life, and also about their desire to be more financially stable. And I really think about that a lot, because if you can be strategic, intentional, and proactive, then you can actually find opportunities that others don't.
Yeah.
I kept running into that glass ceiling of like, okay, I'm making the money on the corporate side, but I wanted to elevate myself to a different level than any employer could have done for me. So like, to your point, there does come a point where there's like a wall that you're going to hit.
Yeah.
It may be a financial wall, it may be a career wall. And that for me is the perk of ownership. The perk of business ownership is not that you like get rid of corporate, but instead it was like, I am truly my own money manager.
Yeah.
I am my boss. I am my entire up level, and that means I can invest in me.
Yeah.
So it was not personal. So even if you don't love yourself, you can invest in yourself with that mindset.
Yeah.
That to me is what most people need to think about. When I say get your assets together, that's what I mean. It's like, get your situation in a place where you can start really doing more, even with a little, and especially with much.
And I think that is scary to a lot of people. Like the idea of being their own boss is like, well, I don't trust myself with my money right now, so why would I want to be the only person who's in control of it?
Yeah.
But I think as soon as you get to the place where you can be your own boss and you can be your own money manager, you will have taken so many little steps in between like where you are now and where you are then that like you will build that trust with yourself. Like that's part of money management, is learning to trust yourself with your money and trust that like you got you. Even when you mess up, you know how to handle your mistakes and you know how to keep going even when you set yourself back.
Yeah, and notice we're not talking about like this vague sense of money where it's like, I have money in the market.
No.
It's
like,
not that.
Money in your bank account.
Money in the bank.
Yeah.
That to me, cash, real money coming in, is an area of opportunity for everyone. Like I said, you can buy something small for, maybe a few $100s. You can really be the asset manager of your life when you start thinking about other things, creative things you can do with your money. So of course that's, buying your currencies like we just talked about. And now I really want to talk about buying businesses, because this to me was an area of opportunity that I wish more people thought about. It's not about, hashtag investing. It is about hashtag ownership.
Yeah.
So I think as we wrap up this episode, what are your thoughts on like being an owner one day? What does that look like for you? Like what would you say you see for yourself as an owner, and what are your blocks?
I don't think I've ever thought of myself as being an owner at any point. Yeah. So I think if I was going to be an owner, I think I would not want to own something that involved managing people, mostly because that is my job right now and I don't want to do it forever.
Yeah.
So I think when I think about ownership, I think about owning maybe assets, maybe real estate investment, maybe like something that is tangible and solid and is a good, secure return on investment, not like stocks and bonds.
Good. I think that's a great starting off point. Real estate is actually, I think, one of the easiest starts. I mean, I always think if you're renting and you're in a place where you can try to own, it is the first piece of ownership. I mean, I had that luxury at 20, as early.
Were you 20?
I was 20.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I hadn't even graduated yet.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. Because in my head, like, you're what, like 13 years older than me? So I was like, you're just grown. So
yeah,
I didn't know what age.
I am grown. But being able to purchase a tangible asset at the age of 20 and manage that asset, I think is the thing I really think about, is an area of opportunity for everyone. First of all, you have to live somewhere. Second of all, rent literally goes into the ether.
Yeah.
And when you start realizing how money is incentivized and how wealth is created, it is always around this like strategic use of long-term and short-term plays. And so I'm not a big fan of debt. And I really believe that if you can be out of debt for everything but your primary residence, as an example, it's almost always the best place to be. And if you can be out of debt for your primary residence, even better. Yeah. Because that is really the equation of freedom is ownership.
Yeah.
So I think in summary, if we can get to a place where we're better with money and we're thoughtful about kind of what it means for us, that means like ownership is up for everyone. Like everything's up for grabs. And what I wanted to do next is talk about the skills that are needed to get there. I think let's end with like what is not the best practice. Because when I start talking about businesses, it's going to get really odd. When you think about most businesses that are publicly traded or that are seen in the world or that get big venture capital investments, they run without the fundamentals. They don't actually make money. They don't actually have fiscal conservatism. So therefore, they're always panicked and on the hustle culture hamster wheel.
Yeah.
And I just want to make sure I'm really clear and not glamorizing what success looks like, because so much of success for me was putting my head down, learning anything and everything I could about the thing I wanted to use as my trade, and then also figuring out how I could continue to invest in myself so that I could be the best me for when opportunities came up. Where are you at now? Like where, as you're thinking about ownership, you said something really poignant, which is like you haven't thought about yourself as an owner.
No. And I think because like for me, I have to think bite-sized or I get really overwhelmed. So I think ownership for me feels a little bit out of my like perspective of like my zoom out that it just never has crossed my mind. Like maybe like home ownership has vaguely entered the ether. But like owning like an asset or a home is an asset, but like a business or anything like that has not crossed my mind because it feels a little out of my reach.
Do you do your own taxes? Ish,
yeah.
Like an H&R Block or something like that does it for you?
Yeah.
I'd never thought of this as an area of opportunity, but I had the same CPA prepare my taxes from the day I started making money at 16 to now. That gentleman, he actually sold his business a couple of years ago, but I still work with his entire office. That gentleman watched me kind of grow into success very strategically. And I'll tell you what the strategy was. It was to understand that even when you own an asset like a home, the tax code has certain benefits and certain detriments. Even when you make a high earning from your income from your job, the tax code has certain benefits. And so in order to win the game, you have to know the cheat codes. So a great tax preparer, for instance, always helped me to see and to think about what's the next thing that I need to do so that I can leverage my success alongside what actually is possible. And for me, taxes are a huge source of pain spot. And so I was always thinking about how can I not pay Uncle Sam legally? And that to me is the reason to think about being an owner. Mic drop.
What do you mean though?
You're going to find out.
Okay.
Mic drop.
Thanks for joining us. Now go out there and turn your success into action. Generational Growth is about helping you in every area that matters: mind, body, business, and self-care. Share this episode on social media and LinkedIn, and feel free to send us where you feel strong and where you need support.
Please note, this content is for entertainment purposes only and should not be considered financial or professional advice. Always consult with a qualified professional before making any financial decisions. Some of the products and services mentioned may involve financial compensation or partnerships.